previously we've looked at arrays inside of C++. Today we're going to look at a two-dimensional array in C++ and how it's both similar and different from an array in C++. The easiest way to think of a two-dimensional array in C++ is to think of it as a series of rows and columns. So let's create a basic matrix. Here I've defined a basic matrix. Notice I need to define the size of my rightmost element. If I were to have a three-dimensional array, then I need to define my right two arrays. In fact, only the first array can be left without initializing its size. Let me create this real quick. Now, C++ stores this information as an array of arrays. Therefore, I'm going to create an inner array within my array. As you can see, I now have arrays within my array. And this is how C++ uses and sees a multidimensional array. In this case, I have 3 rows and 5 columns. And it's very easy to think of my leftmost square bracket as being my rows and the rightmost as my columns. And visually, we can see this as we've lined them up as in this example. Of course, I could also define a matrix simply by putting in the sizes. Here I've defined my elements, a total of 200 with 10 inner arrays of 20 in size. Now passing this matrix to a function to initialize these values is going to be fairly simple. It's going to be very similar to how we use a regular array with one minor change. First, we're going to specify our function prototype. Then we'll define our array name. We will give it an open square brackets for our first one. However, our second square bracket and any following after this must be defined in size. I've chosen to create my function definition here, run my function prototype. Whenever I'm going to be using a matrix, I'll need to use nested loops. To access an element of my matrix C, I'll simply give it 2 indices, my rows and my columns, which I'm pulling from my array loops, which I'm pulling from my loop variables in my for loop. Just like with the regular array, our matrix is passed by reference. This way we can change its values inside our function. Now we'll come down here and we'll initialize our matrix. When we make the function call, we only need to give the matrix name and the size. If we want to print out our array as a matrix C, we can print this out. After we print out all of our inner loop using tab spacing in between, just so it's a little bit easier, we'll then use our cout statement to print a new line. When we run this code, we see our lines and columns. You'll notice that our array columns, because it was so long, did scroll to a new line. However, we can see the columns and see our matrixy in a basic format here.